to tip his nose the same way the hip's going to go. So I'm going to want his hip to come this way. So I'm going to tip his nose this way. I'm going to reach back with that leg, and I want the hip to come the same way that the nose is tipped. So while you're teaching that, you really have to recognize what they're thinking about when you're teaching that. So at first I spend all this time teaching them that if I flex your nose around to the right and then put this leg on, your hip should kick away from where your nose is. So this is embedded in them early on, and it needs to be. But then as soon as they get that down pat, I'm going to switch to being able to take the nose this way, take the hip, and the same way the nose is. So when I'm at that stage where I'm getting ready to teach that, the first, I'm going to teach it in like 2 segments. It's kind of like what Christians like wanting to do one thing with the front end and one thing with the back. I'm going to do that on purpose. So if I want to school tipping the nose to the left and the hips to the left, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to school the shoulder part. So I actually need his shoulders to be thinking about doing this in order to make this happen, if he's going to curl this way. So I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to tip his nose, I'm going to take my leg right behind the shoulder, and I'm just going to tip his shoulders this way, okay? Now in the beginning when I'm teaching that, I might even use the whip a little bit to tap on that shoulder to help him understand what I want. And because of the stuff I've done on the ground, of the shoulder the whip talking to the shoulder, he understands that. I can also steer him off the whip. So he has tools built in the shoulders that I can use if I need to. So in the beginning, what I'll do is, I'll do it in 2 sets. So, tip his nose, tip the shoulder. Okay, now I'm going to let him go back straight. And now I'm going to go back, I'm going to take my leg and I'm going to tip the hip. So in the beginning, and you see how his nose tipped to the right a little bit? That's okay. I'm patterning this. So now I'm going to come back and I'm going to take the nose and I'm going to take the shoulder. Now I'm going to take the hip. And then I'm going to take the nose. And then I'm going to take the hip. And then I'm going to take the shoulder. And then I'm going to take the hip. So I'm helping him anticipate that ultimately what I want to do, that these 2 things are going to come together. So ultimately, he's going to start to recognize that, oh, when she takes, and I wish you could see, I didn't use my right leg right there, okay? I'm taking my shoulder, now I did. Okay, so lots of times when he feels me set him up with the shoulder, he'll actually anticipate and bring this hip around and curl it, and that's what I want. So, but there's a window, and for him, I mean, and I videoed it because it was like, I mean, it's hard not to want to just take a hold of them and say, keep your nose here, get your hip over there. You cannot, there is no contraption. All this is doing is just keeping them a little soft in the face, but there's no contraption you can put one in that's going to make that happen. They have to figure it out. So if you get to the point that you're getting frustrated, then break it back down to those teeniest little things and isolate them. Just do the shoulders, and then just let them stand for a second. Chill. If you do the shoulder, see how every time I quit, he's just like, he quits. So you got to build that in from and that's a little bit what we need to build in with him because, I mean, it's going to be so easy to. He's just a little bit of an overachiever and he's not quite, you need a neutral. Because when we're driving and we put them in gear and then they get stuck in gear sometimes. So you need a very clear neutral that you can, and so you kind of build in a neutral between this step of moving the shoulders and then now neutral. Now I'm going to move the hip, neutral. And then once you built that in, now you can start walking a little bit forward and getting it. Little, same thing though, same thing, get the shoulders. As you're walking forward, now I'm going to get the hip as I'm walking forward. So, just build it up with little bitty baby steps as you're going.